Hello and welcome back to the channel. That was study number 1, written and performed there by moi, Graham Young. Now that's a piece I wrote for a lot of my students that I've got to the point where they know the major scale, they can play it up and down, maybe a few sequences, stuff like that, but they need to get it together in terms of playing it through a whole piece. And that's what pieces are great for when you're learning. It brings all the elements you've learned separately together. It means that they can be integrated into a performance rather than being little separate boxes. Now, the tempo is quite fast. It's 145, but you're only playing quavers. So it's not super fast. There are slowed down versions of the backing track. Talking of which, if you go in the description, there's a link to the score, to the tabs, as the kids say, or the dots. And of course, they're on screen as well. And also, there's the backing track there too. Now, if you get into this and you learn it and perform it, maybe do a video, please share it. That'd be fantastic. And as always, click like, subscribe, all that good stuff. And I'll see you on the next one. So the intro phrase is really just a C major arpeggio that's dressed up with some chromatic notes. So it's starting with the CBC thing on your 8th and 7th of the low E, and then you can slide up, and then you've got E and D sharp on the octave in the 11th, and then a G and F sharp, and then up a string, and then it's the octave. So, or you can sort of do it this way. Use more than just the first two fingers. I tend to do it that way. I think I prefer the sound of it. So the initial phrases of this little study are all located within this sort of C major scale round here, starting on the 8th fret of the low E. And you're starting on the 2nd finger, on the 10th fret of the D string to give you the C, the middle C, and it's C, B, C, B. And then just running up the scale a little bit. So E and back again. So that's fairly straightforward, nothing remarkable there. The next bit is the descending arpeggio, which goes C, G, E, C. G again, sorry. Now, this can be a little awkward, so there's a couple of ways around it. You can go and then substitute the 2nd finger for the 3rd, the 2nd finger on the G, swing a little bit to get the little finger to the octave of the E string, and then back the way you came. 3rd finger goes in, and then when you start repeating the BC thing, you substitute your 2nd finger back in place. So it goes like this. 3, 2, 4, 2, 3, 1, 2. Like that. All the other options to do that. 3, 2, 4, 2, and roll. Like that. Of course, that's probably not going to be as clean as doing a finger substitution. So that probably should be your preferred option. Although that's a very, very useful skill and one that will turn up later in the piece. So looking at the picking for a minute, generally it's alternate picking. I tend to start with an upstroke, and you want a little bit of a bounce in the picking action. Palm mute the lower strings more than the upper strings, particularly for that arpeggio, because it will tend to boom out if you're not careful. So starting with an upstroke. And there's quite a few different picking patterns that would work. You could go up, up, down, like a sweep. But it's hard to keep the rhythm consistent when you do that in amongst alternate picking. So just generally an alternate picking pattern that works for you. Okay, so the second phrase, this is pretty straightforward. You're just running up and down the scale, really. So you start with the C, B, C, B repeated thing. Run all the way up to the B. Now, if you're in standard tuning, then, well, that's a you problem. But anyway, you just use 2 and 4. You don't need to move. So, and then back down. And then the sort of answering phrase to that descends. So it goes down to the bottom of the scale, and there's a position shift down to the B, like that. So we've landed on B on the 7th fret there, and the next phrase is essentially just a C major 7th arpeggio. Does the repeating C, B business. The C, E, G, B, C, B, G, E. 2, 1, 4, 3, 4. So 9, 10 on the D string. 10th, 7th. And then moves up a string, so it becomes F major 7th. And on the second time does a run up. There, so nothing much to say there, just D, B, and then that allows you to repeat. Right, and then on the repeat of that, you need to do a finger substitution to get yourself into the next section. So you go, like that. So you put your first where your second is, and that allows you to put your second on the G on the 10th fret for the next bit that comes along. So, yeah, like that. So there we're doing it like a G7 arpeggio, really, with a passing 6, but an accidental F sharp underneath it. And then little finger, A to G sharp. So it's like an A minor 7th arpeggio, but again we've got a G sharp underneath it. Then here, to get to the next bit, we do a finger substitution again. We put a third finger on the C. That means we put our second finger on the B. And do this bit. First finger goes back to the D, and then we do 4 notes per string. E there, with the second finger on the 9th fret, then F on the 10th with the 3rd, little finger on the octave, and then we move up, so our second finger is now over the F, and come down with a G7 arpeggio. And that puts us back to where we started. So, and that's a good thing to practice circularly, cyclically, like that. And then we have the rhythmic displacement groups of 3 CBs. Now those aren't triplets, they're just straight quavers still. Now if you're in standard tuning, you have a little bit of an extra stretch, but it's nothing that challenging. So the final arpeggio section. Now here we need to play a 5-note arpeggio, and the first note of that arpeggio is actually the last note of the. So you've got to feel the accent, the beat on the second note, and it's C major again, but it's going C at the top, G, and again I'm doing the perfect 4th with 3 and 4, 2 different fingers. And then your first finger on E there on the 9th fret. And the same technique there with 3 and 2. and then we do F major. I like to do it this way. So again, it's the same shape again. You put your first finger on the 10th fret for the A. Like that. First finger A, third finger F, second C, little finger A. Or if you're in standard tuning, a more practical way might be this, because otherwise you're trying to roll 3 and that's never going to work terribly well. You do this, you put your fourth finger on the 14th fret of the G string for the A, first finger on the 10th, and then you roll to C. Then your third finger on the octave of the A for the A. And then it's a diminished arpeggio, and these are straightforward. It's A flat, or G sharp. So basically 4-1-4-1. And that puts you in place for the C major, which again, we've played this shape. So what's going on with the notes on the G string? You can hear the voice leading. And then we do a diminished again, this time from F sharp, like so. Same shape as the one before, obviously it's symmetrical, it just repeats. And then that puts us in place, if we go up a string, for the G7. So little finger on the F, first finger D, B with the third, and C, G rather. So you can hear the voice leading of that G string. So all together. And then we get the little outro thing. So it goes C, B, C, and then we slide up onto the E there on the 14th. And then we do the same thing, and then up to the, whatever that is, 17th, I guess. And then up the string. And then your little finger, we could do the 2 E's. Sorry, C's. Can't do my note names today. You can slide. Picking through the arpeggio section, here you're going to use a bit more sweep picking. So for instance, from the F major, I might go. And then sort of alternate for the diminished, and then a kind of sweep and alternate for the C major, down, up, 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 and then again back to the alternate for diminished, and then a similar pattern for the G7 as the C major.